Welcome to After Work Conversations with Manic and the Jerk, and we have Miss Oshun. I'm the Manic Genius. Damn, I
And I'm
messed
the
that all up.
jerk.
Okay,
It's all good. It's all good. The jerk
we
is late
got
at night. You know, we got Miss Oshun in the building.
what up? What up?
So
What
how
up?
you been?
Hello, hello. I have been good. As you guys know, haven't been the best content creator, but I have been a good human, so I can report that.
I've been seeing you in these YouTube streets, battling it out, man. So you definitely be going out here. You know, you ain't shook. You know, if I gotta say that, you out here hurting men's feelings and stuff. We was like, man, let me grab Miss Oshun up here. Be out here battling.
Hey, they took me out of retirement, and I'm upset. They took me out of retirement. I'm so upset because they ain't even giving me a check. Okay, they just took me out of retirement, just making my life hard. And I had to come up here, and And it's, to be honest with you, part of the reason why I think sometimes I do that is because it goes with my name in different languages. Like my name in the Far Eastern languages, like around the Orient and around Vietnam, my name means grandmother. And one of my alter egos is a old Vietnamese woman that cussed too much. Yeah, I feel like sometimes my alter ego come out with people. And my Vietnamese accent is I don't know, I feel like it's pretty good, but I be clowning though. I be clowning when I be speaking to people in Vietnamese accents. They be like, okay, she don't mean nothing serious. But yeah, I can get in my little, ways like that. But I mean, that's what people call me every day. They be like grandma every time they say my name.
Okay, I never even knew that because I was going to actually ask you about that meaning. But before we jump into these questions, can you go ahead and give us like a quick introduction to you? Because one of the things I found out, like when we were talking about it in the back, that you wrote about. I know you was kind of echoing it back, but about 6 or 7 different books.
Yeah.
And I was trying to tell you, I'm like, man, why don't you be out here flexing on people, man? I'm tired of y'all being humble out here. You know, let me write a book. I don't care if I write a pamphlet.
Yeah,
I'm a solid author after that point. Hey, I'm flexing on everybody.
Accomplished.
Listen, not a pamphlet, okay?
I'll write a menu. I'm out here. I'm flexing.
I did that.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because the moment before I hit the button to actually publish, after I got all my stuff together and stuff, because it was a lot. I took a pause before I hit the button because I knew once you're an author, that information is out there forever, and you're imprinting on people. So it was a big step for me. But yes, I wrote. I want to say my first book was Oshun in Ogun's Forest. And that was an Orisha tale that my son actually created. And I decided to make it more of an animated story. So he had made up a story he had heard the Orisha tales from the West African system. And he liked them, but he wanted to create his own stories out of those characters, like Ogun and Shango and Oya and Nanabarudi. He just liked making his own story. So I heard his story and I said, that would be a nice little book. So I decided to sketch out a book. Then it went from a sketch to a full-fledged, animated book. And so that's how that book got started. And people really, I got a lot of reviews on that book, made a lot of money from it. And I started writing the second book. And then after the second book came, then the third book came. And now I branched off into other types of books in terms of children's material coming out of African systems. So I went to the East African systems, and I have 2 workbooks. Technically, they're not pamphlets, but they are workbooks.
Don't frown on pamphlets. That's my turf right there, though. Be careful.
It is technically, it's 2 short books, and they are workbooks for kids. It looks very academic because it'll take you through the beginning to the end of the writing system for children to understand. So you see a lot of cartoon characters in there, and it's very colorful for kids to learn how to write in these old systems. And I did that because one idea led to the next. And I really didn't even know what I wanted to do with the writing other than, hey, it's cool and I like to draw. I have a degree from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. So I have that degree in animation visual effects for motion picture television. And that degree led me to working with the government, doing basically graphics for television. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't get the job I wanted, like, from that degree. I just worked for myself. So after so many years, this is what came of my failed usage of my degree at the academy. But I'm grateful that it turned out that way. I actually went back to school and got a science degree, which helped me better in my, daylight career. But my books it's my prized possession. I did co-author my second book, Mommy. It's the story of the Little Mermaid retold in its original fashion from the West African system, but I have a twist on it. So of course, people can see the African American motifs in that book in terms of the slave trade. It is for children though, but you do see the background of the transatlantic slave trade there. And I thought it was interesting that you can tell these very, these very ancient stories through current world events. That's what inspired me there. And my third book, which is Oshun and Iku, an Orisha tale. That is, that's my heart too, right there. It's just a story to teach children about life and death, but it's very spiritually grounded. I'll say that. Yeah.
Oh, that's dope. Manic, you want to jump in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Look at his face. I'm like, all right, dude. I gotta.
I'm trying to process the Orisha tale, Oshun.
Well, think of Orishas as most people think of Orishas as African gods. Like, remember the movie American Gods?
Oh, okay, yeah.
The series American Gods. A lot of those deities come out of the African system. They just have new names. But truth be told, later on in the series American Gods, you do see the actual Orishas, like the guy that was actually on the boat itself, the spider.
I remember exactly. Yeah.
Nancy the spider. He comes out of the West African systems, and there's several names for them. It's not just like in Nigeria, but that is a story too. Anansi the spider. That's a children's story, but it has real world meaning. So these are the ancient tales that we don't hear about in our sphere, because most of us are not steeped inside of African American culture to the point of spirituality. We typically it's kind of in the background of our life, but not front and center. So that was just like something I just felt inspired to do, because in the background of my life I studied these systems. So it was important to me and that community, because not all communities even know about that. So that's what I was telling you about my other page on Instagram, my Orisha books. It's a community there that indulges in these stories and gains spiritual guidance from the different meanings from these, what they call patakis. So yeah,
we definitely got to look that up.
Yeah, definitely to be able to process it.
Nah, because I stumbled across, like you said, the stories and stuff, because I did watch the television series American Gods, and that was the one character I was interested in, so I didn't know how deep it was.
Yeah.
Nah, because I looked it up, I was like, dang, man, I didn't realize how deep that kind of show went into. So when I looked up his character, I didn't realize like it was a whole like backstory and stuff. But
real big backstory. Like, people think, some of these like Thor, all these different deities that have this long drawn out backstory. They come from the African systems, but
they do.
Yeah, but Marvel has just done a marvelous job at recasting them. So.
Oh, okay. Damn, I didn't even know that.
I'm gonna go to the first question. What's your definition of love? Of what love looks like from your partner in a relationship?
Well, like I told y'all, this is gonna be a little controversial.
Hey, that's why I asked it.
Well, let me say this. I know in recent days, probably in recent hours, okay, there's been this this redefining of love being the specific things, right? Like, understanding, commitment, right? And I guess in their minds, that's love to them. However, when you say, well, what is love to me, right? It's almost like personalized, right?
Yeah.
And I accept that personalization of it, because in my personal assessment of love, love is an actual being, not a specific being, but an actual being. And what I mean by that is, the way I conceptualize love is a being that is everywhere and nowhere at the same time in everybody's life, having a conversation with everyone at the same time. And it has its agenda. Like me, I come to this platform, I have an agenda. I want to speak, I want to say certain things, I want to speak a certain language. This is my agenda, right? So it's, in my estimation, love is an actual being. And I don't want to say person, because that kind of centralizes love, right? But from what I've experienced of just love itself, I experience love sort of like how people may experience a spirit in their life that might belong to a person, maybe in their past or whatever. That's how I experience love. I've also, at least personally, started to study not love, the definition of love, but what love is saying to me in my own life. So I've ran little experiments to understand, okay, well, if this was let's say this was a person and they did this and this and this, and they were silent here and here, what would the message be, right? I've come to realize in my personal walk with that question of what is love, is that love is a thing that exists, that I experience, right? By definition of being in this 3D environment. It's not in my life because like something sent it to me, right? No, it exists, period. And by way of me being here by proxy, I experience it. And my experience of it is it has a certain personality in and of itself. Like, for instance, you ever notice that when it comes to love, there's a lot of jokes going on? Like,
Oh yeah.
it's almost like when some people say God does these little funny jokes, like it creates men not to talk, but women to say everything, and men to overthink and women not to think at all. Like, it's like a funny joke, like God like did with humanity, like when it made them. I see it the same way. Like, love is a thing with a personality. At times it can be very shrewd and to the point and cutthroat. It doesn't care about your feelings. At other times it can be very lighthearted and you can enjoy love, like, being around it and stuff. And at other times, sometimes love can be just as silent as somebody in a coma. Okay. Not worth anything. So it's like, to me, my experience is just kind of like been unraveling as I've studied myself and been open to just the deeper parts of myself. Because I've been through some heartbreak. I've been through some what I call mind break too. And I remember there was a point where my heart was broken, like really bad. And it was a point where I was starting to tip. Like I got to the precipice of whatever I thought love was, right? And then I started feeling like maybe I'd been tricked this entire time. And like, because like I just kind of almost was where Prince Ella was at, right? But then suddenly, I don't know, out of nowhere, I heard a voice on YouTube, like just playing in the distance. And for some reason, I just like stopped what I was doing. I was listening to it, and it was a guy, and his name was Raul Nefer. And this is an old guy. He could have been like 90 years old, right? And he had a podcast. And back then, back in the day, podcast wasn't on YouTube. They were actually on systems that aired podcasts, like a radio. So I listened to him and I just kind of forgot all my problems. And then I listened to him the next day, still forgot my problems. And he was just talking about things that was outside of my worldview. and I didn't understand. And then it took me time to understand what he was talking about in terms of the station of man and what a human is like on the inside. And it had been 365 days. I hadn't watched television. I hadn't listened to the radio. I hadn't watched YouTube. I hadn't listened to no other content creator but him. And on that 365 day, it was like my anniversary of even knowing who he was. And I had watched so much content of his and even met him at a book signing that I realized it was time for me to stop and go back to regular life now that I had took a breather from love, right? That we had like a mini divorce, and then we came back together. And when we came back together, we had a great relationship. Yeah, I don't mind what love does. Love definitely don't mind what I do. And I don't get upset when love does what it do. Sometimes love comes to me in the form of manosphere niggas. And I just sometimes they do. That love will show itself and say, I'm feeling cocky today, and I'm about to tell you about yourself. And I just be like, okay, let me put my gloves on today for you. And I had fun. I had fun. I don't even cry anymore. So love is a conversation that I've been having for a long time, and I just now figured out what language it speaks and when it tells jokes. Yeah.
So you mentioned recently, like there's been a lot of conversations. I've been listening to him too. So as far as like Princella, what's your take on her definition of love? What would you say with that?
I would say this. I think her definition of love is like a very crude definition of love, right? And I agree with what she said about the fact that if everybody just gonna make up what their love definition is, I turn to love Tina. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody love everybody. Like, and I get what she's saying about that. It creates confusion when we want to have a cohesive conversation. However, when she says, well, love first is understanding, and then it goes into these other dimensions, what I see is a very baseline understanding of how to just be in the same room with other people and be respectful. I don't see that as personally. I don't see that as the even the next dimension, not the lowest dimension, but that's just the very baseline dimension of love. When you like she said, you can't love something you don't understand. Meanwhile, what's your favorite color and why?
Blue.
Why?
Just always liked it. I really don't have a great purpose. Yeah, I really don't. Nah.
All these years, not one answer. Oh wow, nope. You must not really like blue. So.
It's a good point though. Hey, I'm just
saying, like you. But do you even know what the color blue is?
It's the sky.
Have you ever seen? Have you ever seen the color blue in the sky?
Yeah, I have.
No, you haven't. You've never seen the color.
By whose definition? Hold on. By whose definition?
No, by your own definition. You've never seen the color blue in the sky.
I know what the color blue is, and that's what I define as the sky.
No. Let me break it down for you.
Go ahead, break this down.
Let me break it down for you. When you look into the sky, it looks blue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you go into the sky, you realize nothing's there.
No, it's still blue.
No, it looks blue. When you look at water, right, it looks blue, don't it? It looks blue. It definitely looks blue. When you pick it up in your hands, no matter how blue it looks, and you put it in your hands, it's clear. Ain't it?
That's a good point.
And it's the same water, same composition. Like I've been to the Caribbean and I picked up green water. It was clear as the water here in Baltimore. So what it is not going T-more. There's no T in Baltimore from us. Okay, it's the D. Baltimore. However, the true color that you're seeing is within your own self. It's within your own eye. You're not seeing that color outside of yourself. You're looking at your own self when you see color. There's no color out there. The color exists in your eye. It's not out there, but it looks like it's out there. And the question is, why is it your favorite color? And here's the thing. If you're only seeing a reflection of what's inside yourself through the lenses in your eyes feeding back to you, and it's nothing out there, why do you think a specific energy within yourself is something you like the best? See how deep that goes? But that's to
Yeah,
my
no,
point
absolutely.
about love. It's like she says you can't love something you don't understand. You don't understand why your favorite color is blue and why you've never seen it, but you know it so well. Are you
I like
saying
that.
that it's a lie that it's your favorite color? No. Do you understand the color blue? No. Have you ever seen it? No. But you know through empirical data, it's your favorite color. We can actually measure that in science. So what's going on there? That's what I'm saying. Her
Yeah, I got
definition
you.
is very crude. Like
So,
I can understand that.
Oshun, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of pushback scientifically.
Mm-hmm.
Why does water look blue?
Water looks blue because of the chemical composition in it that is resonating through your eyes through when the sun penetrates it, and then that particle comes back into your eye. There's an appearance of blue because of the chemical composition.
Yeah, but when you put it in a cup, it's clear.
Yeah, because the sun isn't beaming through it in that cup, and on top of that, the what you call it, the prism of how you see colors is now changed simply because you picked that up.
The volume.
No, not the volume, but just the fact that you could pick up a big bucket, right? It's still going to have the same effect. Like you pick it up in your hand, it looks clear, right? Then you pick it up in a steel bucket, it looks clear. It doesn't matter what you pick it up in, it's still going to have that same effect. Yeah. But the it's not so much that color doesn't exist. Color exists. It just doesn't exist outside of yourself. It exists within yourself. Like I did this experiment when I was a child where I said, how do I know that what I'm seeing in the sky, the color I'm seeing is the same color you're seeing? And we're just not calling different things the same name. Like I see purple sky, you see green sky, but we both are calling this blue. Whenever we see it, because it's up there, we're both saying blue. Like, how do we know what we're seeing? We don't know, right? And that's the strange thing about just that phenomenon. But see, here's the thing. I never understood why. And I'm just going to be honest. I never understood why that actually happens. Like, I don't know why. But that taught me a lesson that you don't have to know a thing to know a thing. And that's a deeper level of understanding right there. But I respect Princella's point that before you can say, hey, I would give my life for this man, you might need to know who you're talking about.
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure. For that, I mean, that's rational. But I just wanted to go back to the why does water look blue in the ocean, but when you put it in a cup, it's clear. The answer: water molecules absorb light, more of the red wavelengths than blue. In large quantities, like ocean, the slight blue tint becomes noticeable. In a cup, the volume of water is small, so the absorption effect is barely visible, making the water appear clear. So,
and what about the sky?
I mean, I can ask that as well. Like, but I can get a scientific.
Look at it like this. The sky is reflecting the water, and the water is reflecting the sky. However, if you swim in the water and go in the sky, you're not filled with a bunch of blue fog.
Yeah, no, I get you.
But again, I never understood all of that, right? But one thing I did understand is that whatever I'm seeing up there, if let's say a tennis ball should hit me the right place on my head, I won't see it. So that tells me everything I'm seeing is contingent upon my inner self. So, why do I love these colors that I see inside myself? Like here's the thing, close your eyes and see the color blue. Still exists. Right?
Yeah.
Literally. You can close your eyes and still see the color blue. You don't need to even have eyes to see the color blue at this point.
So if I'm understanding your definition of love, I'm just trying to bring it in. It's a lot. I'm trying to bring it in. So you see love as a being.
Yeah.
You don't. Okay.
Would you say like spiritual? Somewhat?
Yeah. For all
you.
intensive purposes, yeah.
Okay. So when you, because you said you were in love, you experienced love, from your partner, because you dealt with okay. So your partner, it was outside of your partner, the love that you felt.
Well,
It was like you, your partner, and this being of love that was a part of
no, not so much the third party. Okay.
Well, I mean, you said being. I'm like, where do I find this love nigga at? Like,
man, like how she look?
She's single.
She thick.
Oh Lord, she's single. No, I don't mean it like that. What I mean is like, okay, for instance, have you ever heard people theorize that we're all one being having different experiences? Like we're all one consciousness in different bodies, just looking out of different eyes, having different experience, but we're all one brain, one conscious being, right? You ever heard that theory about human beings?
I honestly haven't, but I go with it. Like, it sounds pretty cool. It sounds like a nice like science fiction movie.
So it's almost like me saying, okay, there's only one person in existence, and that one person is split up between you, me, and SophisticatedJerk. And in my body, it's having a female experience. In your body, it's having a male experience that was born where you were born, and in his
attractive male experience. Go ahead.
Attractive male experience. Okay.
Average.
And so with every experience, this is sort of like, for instance, like in your dreams, right? Sometimes you have dreams where you might be in your body. Sometimes you have dreams where you might be in somebody else's body. You might not have nobody, but you're still having an experience. And it's the same entity yourself, right? In every dream. So when it comes to love, right? I feel like for me, my experience has been love exists everywhere and nowhere. And my experience of it through people, through the physical apparatus of people, has been in every person that I've been with. I'm not going to say, well, because I was in love, I experienced love. No, every person I've been in connection with, that was a love experience for me. It wasn't just, well, you know, your first boyfriend, that was puppy love, that wasn't really love. And then your last experience where it was an adult situation, that was love that went wrong. Like, no. Every experience is a love experience. And the question I ask is, what is it trying to say? Because it doesn't have lips like me, and it's not going to communicate like me. So if we can understand how animals speak without speaking, we should be understanding how we would speak to each other in our own mind without words, in a sense. So that's the quest I've been on, and I'm not going to act like I know everything about that, but just to kind of put it plainly, love has been in a conversation with me since I was very little, through every person that I've experienced. And sometimes that conversation, it said something to me when I was maybe too young to understand. But then through time, I had to come back and say, oh, that's what you meant when you said that to me back then. But it took me years of studying just that one little thing for me to figure out what you said. So, you know, like when I was young, I had this experience with this little boy, right? He gave me 50 cents. And I felt really great about the fact that he gave me 50 cents to go to the store and get a bunch of candy. And I felt like he really cared about me because he gave me 50 cents. And all he had was $1. So so the conversation of giving people money, right? And that being an experience of someone loving you, giving you 50 cents from the $1, right? What does that really mean? And I know that's like a kid thing, right? But throughout my adulthood, I had to really understand when someone gives you money, sometimes they can be pimping you, right? And that's not necessarily the same thing as when a man is on his last 20 and you need 15 for gas and he on the bus, but he's trying to make it work with you. You see, it's a different conversation, but it's the same concept. So that's what I mean by love has been in a conversation with me through every person I've been with. And I've just had to realize what was the message. And nowadays I'm learning in more real time. It doesn't take me 10 years, no more. Okay. I'm proud of myself. It's more like maybe 30 days now. But I'm getting it.
So, because you think the issue is, and that most people are just trying to define love as like always positive.
Yeah. Oh,
okay. Yeah. So I'm seeing now what you're saying is just like, man, love could be also bad too. You know.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm glad you said that, because when Princella defined love, right? She defined love by these different attributes that are admirable. All of them are admirable. But when I said, well, to myself, I said, well, what happens when someone that has all of these attributes, right, does something that's contrary to those to you, but they have those attributes for you? What is love then? And so somebody had put something in one of the comment sections, and I told them, I said, listen, when your mother does something to you when you're young and it scars you, right? You have to ask yourself, because most people, they say, well, God is talking to me, right? I don't necessarily go to the God conversation because I think it's too polarizing. But if I was to say, well, what did God tell you through your mother leaving you at, let's say, 7 years old? What do you think God is trying to tell you through that? Now, when you put love in that perspective, to say God didn't care that you were 7 years old. Love didn't care that you were 7 years old. But love still wanted you to experience the feeling of not having a mother from the age of 7 years old. So what is the lesson you needed to learn from that? Do you know yet, or are you still trying to figure that out? You know, but that's a very horrible thing. Children are not supposed to be left alone. Nature tells you that. However, you know, nature also tells you it'll kill you and not care.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
I guess hold on. I just got one more follow up because this is very interesting. So, like, say, like, if I was probably gonna like deal with another human being, would it be kind of smart to like ignore love at that point and then line it up with, like, I'll say, action versus like all these feelings to a certain degree, which most people kind of line it up with,
you know,
like
what,
character and stuff like that?
Yeah. I'm gonna say this, and I know it's gonna sound complicated, but the answer is all of those things that you said. We can't leave it out, and the reason why is because human beings are not like other creatures, right? For whatever reason, we're not like other creatures. Other creatures, if they are fed, got shelter, and they got enough hair that they need to stay warm when they sleep, they are content. They're happy, literally. Like, you ever seen a cat purr? It don't got nothing but food, clothing, the fur, and shelter. That's all it got, and it's happy. But you give that to a human being, and the human being it just doesn't work. You don't garner happiness from just basic survival with human beings. Like, you just don't. So that's just not how we set up. So it's like when you say, well, should I just ignore my feelings? No, your feelings is not what controls you, but it is a control you use to decipher different things in the world. Like, for instance, like in your car, you might have a GPS, right? That's a tool that tells you what the traffic is most likely going to be like, right? It's not always exact, but it's a tool you use, right? But it doesn't control your car. You can choose to go whatever direction you want, but that tool is there to tell you what the road is feeling like, no matter what turn you on. It's the same thing with feelings. These feelings are letting you know, okay, this is what this energy over here is doing with you. This energy over here is feeling like this. Now you got to choose what direction you want to go in. But this is what I mean when I say I have emotions. I'm not ruled by them. Even as a woman, people say, well, women are over emotional. It's not that they're over emotional. They're just more in tune with that tool. And that tool plays a greater role in the decision making that they use, like their feelings. Now, I've always said jokingly that my intuition has taken me further than anybody's logic. I say that jokingly, but don't jump on me now. Okay?
No. It's interesting. I like it.
I say that jokingly, but I say it jokingly because my intuition has never, and when I mean never, been wrong. It's like, it's so scary how I've always been wrong whenever my logical mind said, well, wait a minute, not really. I don't know that. I didn't actually see that. And then when I did that logic thing, I paid for it. With my life at that. I paid for it with my life when I didn't listen to my intuition. But some people have a hard time deciphering intuition from instinct from just random thoughts. And it's not a bad thing. but it's something you have to cultivate. So when people say women are just highly emotional, it's like, no. You don't understand what an emotion is. Men are highly emotional too.
Yeah.
It's just they use it for a different purpose, generally speaking. But your emotions is there to guide you, not to control you. So when you say, well, I'm dealing with a person, your emotions is just as important as any logic in the circumstance. Like, for instance, if you chose women based on logic, how many women would you choose? Logic.
A lot.
0.0001.
Okay, let me show you how that works, right? Logic says if you get with a woman that doesn't make you happy, right, she's going to make you unhappy. And because you can't tell how long that unhappiness is going to be there, what you do know is if there's a greater risk based on the divorce rate, you're going to spend more money, you're going to lose resources, and I can take it all the way down. Logic will have you find something wrong, drastically wrong with every single human being to, let's say, preserve your sustainability. Logic will tell you everything is wrong. Everything wrong. Everything wrong with everybody. Yep. There's no logic in that shit. It's no logic. There's no logic in dealing with no person because one, human beings are flawed. We know that. How flawed are they? Just take a look outside. Yeah. So what's the logic? Like if I knew if I stepped outside tomorrow, I had an 80% chance of getting shot in the head. What's the logic of going outside?
You need to stay in that house. Stop
right.
playing.
So what's the logic of getting married if there's an 85% chance it's going to fail?
Yeah, I think you got to use a little bit of a combination, though.
Right, but you see what I said? That's
absolutely. Yeah,
use a combination because if you use pure logic, you ain't gonna literally do nothing. Like nothing.
So this is a good segue. So do you think this is what is kind of having somewhat of an impact on everybody? Going into like the data market, and what issues are out there? Everybody's like being too logical to a certain extent.
Yeah, and it comes off like just chill out, man. Like just have fun. Like stop worrying about what the next 5 years hold and just have a drink. Damn, like it's something like that. Like I mean, I've even said, look, just go ahead and have sex. Stop worrying. I'm tired of your attitude. Like just do it. Like it's just that bad. Because I've heard people say when they get on the first date, they're gonna ask all these interview questions, and I'm sitting here like, I don't like being interviewed, even when niggas is paying me. Okay. Because they asking me questions I really don't want to answer. And I'm only telling them what I think they want to hear because I need my money. Okay. And I don't want to be interviewed. I want to get on I want to be in a conversation and feel like I can just be my silly self and talk about whatever I want to talk about. And then just kind of just not roll with anything, but basically be in the moment, right? Because I always tell people, and I when I'm speaking freely, right? I always say I never ask men what is their plan for the next 5-10 years. I never ask men, well, what are you into? I never ask people those types of questions because people when you ask a question in the mind, they want to answer the question. They don't want to, it's not like they're saying, well, let me be honest. Most people don't think, I want to be honest and answer that. Most people think, okay, 5 years. Okay, if I didn't have anything for 5 years, what do I think I want to do for 5 years? Answer to the question. Like, so I don't ask those because I'm not trying to get, let's say, orchestrated answers. I want to really understand a person's mind. And understanding a person's mind is really just letting them be themselves and just watching for the answers you need. Like, I wouldn't ask a man, what does he do for a living? I listen for what his passion is. And let's suppose he's not doing his passion for a living. Let's suppose he's a bus driver, but he has a passion for network communication. I'm listening for that. I can hear the difference that he talks about what he want to do. He never talks about what he is doing. That tells me he's not doing that. I don't need to ask him, well, why aren't you in your passion? Why are you not walking in your purpose, sir? I don't need to say that. I can hear that. I don't need to hear that he doesn't have a father in his life. When I ask him about where he grew up at and he talks about his memories of his childhood, I'm going to hear that there's a lack of my dad in his conversation. I'm going to hear that everything is about mom. I'm going to hear that. Like, I don't need to overly state these questions because I'm listening for who I'm listening to. Like, I don't need to ask these questions like, how much do you make? I know by the car you drive, where you took me at, and where you live at, how much money you make. I know. I'm not done. You trust me, you could do the same thing for me, and you be like, "How?"
You don't think that's just misleading though?
No, it's not.
Because it's what they want you to see. So somebody can have wealth and not showcase that they're rich.
Oh no. Even rich people showcase that they rich. You just kind of gotta have an eye for it.
No, I'm talking about wealthy people.
Right, wealthy people. You can, even if they're in a regular schmegular situation, if you have an eye for it, you can tell. Like you can tell. But truth be told, right? If somebody wealthy takes you to, let's say, a hole in the wall place, right, and it's not their favorite place to eat or go, right, that's probably not a good situation to be in. I'm gonna be honest with you. Just not. I like hole in the wall restaurants, even though it's 5-star restaurants within walking distance of me. But I like to go to hole in the wall places because I just like certain types of food, right? But if you're dating me, you're gonna pick up on that real quick. You're gonna see me drive past all these nice restaurants to go to that cut rate and get that sub and then fries and that half and half. But that's just me. So, but you gonna see me do that. You're gonna pick me up and be like, yo, you don't want to go to no, it's a pizza place back home in Baltimore, 30 miles from here. I want to go to in the hood. That's it. So yeah, you can tell. You can always tell.
Manic looking confused over there.
I am, because there's a couple things, and there's so many things actually. One of the points that you were mentioning on a date, like you don't like to ask, questions that feel like you're being interviewed because, you're going to give the best interview question to answer the question, because you're trying to get the job. But there's people out here that are just operating in their authentic nature. And when they ask those questions, they respond with how they authentically feel, regardless if you like it or not. So it's like, they're not trying to win your attention. They're trying to see if you align with their actual future plans, rather than like just being on like more of a free spirit. Because I mean, me personally, I'm and the jerk will tell you this, like just in my personal life, I'm more of a free spirit, in a sense. However, I do think about my future, and I have a vision and plans and a direction. So when I personally go out there and ask questions that may feel like an interview, it's to see that if that person's on the same page. And if they give me what they think I want to hear, I'm going to match it up with their actions and, what they've been doing for the past couple of years. So it'll be a waste of time.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let me say this, right? And I think who you're talking about.
I'll be able to pick up on it.
Right. But now you can do that, right? That's a way to doing it. It is. And there are some people that will answer you directly and say, hey, I don't have a 5-year plan. I got my plan. I'm good, right? They or whatever. They will tell you that straight up and down. But I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It's not a lot of them out here. It's just not.
Not a lot of what?
It's not a lot of people out here that you're gonna ask them a direct question and they're gonna give you an honest answer, let alone a direct honest answer. Like there's some people like that, right? But I'll be honest with you, most of the people I come across,
Well, I mean, that's to the point, like that's where that intuition comes into play, and like the stuff that help guide you is like your GPS, where you're the driver. So if I were to, let's say, go on a date and somebody's giving me these canned responses, and I'm going to pick up on that because I'm going to dive a little bit deeper, and once I figure it out, it may not take. Sometimes it can take me just that conversation, but sometimes people are really good. They're really manipulative, and they know how to like finesse the situation. So it might take me a little longer, but eventually it's gonna show its truth.
Eventually,
yeah.
But you see how much you have to put into the investigation, right? When all you get, well, look at it like this. Let's suppose you're on a date and you don't ask them like do you want to get married, right? You don't ask them that. Let's suppose you just start talking about people that both of you know are married, and you know the problems and the jokes that people talk about married people, right? You'll hear the person across from you tell you truly how they really feel about being married. You don't have to really ask them that, because now you don't have to like figure out, I asked you A, but then you said something else, and now it's the second round. Now I got to figure out, were you like that? Were you not? No, you hear them talking. They're gonna tell you in their jokes what they think about it. Like, you're not gonna have to figure out if they lied now or lying then. They're gonna tell you, like, and make a joke about it, and then you're gonna know, oh, like if I'm on a date with you and we're talking about funny stuff that happens in marriage, and I'm like, boy, this is why I ain't never get married. See right here, this is why I ain't never get married, and we're just joking. Do you really think you need 4 more dates with me to figure out that I'm married with you? No. You get to go first.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the context.
Like, you good. Take check. Like, you good.
Nah, not necessarily. I mean, it could be a joke. It could be like,
no, but the truth is in the joke. If I'm telling you, like, this is why I'm never getting married.
Oh, if you say I'm never getting married, that's a different. I thought you said this is why I've never gotten married.
It's like, no, I'm never. It's like, man, this is what I'm saying. My auntie and them, when they came down from North Carolina, listen, this is why I ain't never getting married, and we just flowing. But
I might flow with you and follow with a conversation. Oh, really? You don't think you'd ever find anybody that you want to spend the rest of your life with?
Oh, and I would say, yeah, but I ain't never getting married. Now you see,
then it's cool.
You see, now I didn't gave you a joke. I wasn't not being honest, and now you got a choice to follow up or to just take my authentic self, as she's just not one that wants to be legally married. You can accept it or investigate, but either way, you got the truth. And you don't have to use your intuition, which most people have trouble with. You don't have to use your intuition to figure it out now. Now, me and you might be able to do that because we might study human behavior. We might be in tune with our intuition more so than the average person. But I'm telling you, the average person needs to hear straight answers and straight like information. And if I'm listening to you and you make the statement in a joyful conversation, never getting married, hate marriage, hate commitment, or stuff like that, I don't, it just saved me time. That's all.
But could it be that the average person doesn't necessarily need a straight answer? They just want a straight answer because they're actually that much interested in you and you're not giving them the answer that they want. So they just want the clarification and they want the reassurance.
If a man tells me this is why I'm never getting married and I need clarification, it's probably because I really, really, really like him, and I feel like I don't have.
That's my point right there.
Right, I really like him, and I feel like, oh man, I don't have no other options. Let me try to see if there's an inclination that he might not be telling the truth. Now you see the problem starting, right? I'm hoping that he was lying to me. So no, like you're right. They probably don't need it. You see what I'm saying? And they probably want something, but at the end of the day, you can't move based on nothingness, right? Like you just can't. Yeah. People are gonna make choices how they make choices, but I'm telling you now, like I know for me, it's been easier in dating for me to just not ask direct questions, but rather indirect questions. Like I would say, hey, did you grow up in Baltimore? What side of town you from? And they say, yeah, I'm from East Baltimore. I'm like, oh, so you dress like such and such. And then they'll start talking about their life in that section of town. And anything they say is a picture of how they grew up. If they grew up in a 2-parent home, I'll hear that. If they grew up in a foster home and they can't talk about certain parts of their life because there's trauma, I'm gonna pick up on that real quick.
Yeah. So I think that's a nice transition into our next question. Just for the simple fact of, you mentioned before that women are more in tune with their emotional side. So do you think in general that makes them smarter in dating? No. Just because you have access to a sophisticated tool don't mean you're smarter at how to use that tool. I like that answer. We might have to clip that. I like that. I like that a lot.
But I'm just being honest with you. Like Like, okay, like for instance with Princella, like she says, men don't have the capability of love, right? But she also says women are more capable of love. I notice she doesn't say women can only love. She's never said that. She's only said women are more capable of it. So there's instances where you'll find women who, in her estimation, can't do it. Like, it's just not in them to do it. And then she says it takes everything in a man to be able to get to that point because he's going against nature in her mind. But you see how, like, she's talking about the outliers, right? The possibilities. And my thing is, in just the idea that we're talking about possibilities, it's like possibilities you don't need intuition for. You don't. Everybody knows, well, is it a possibility? Sure. Intuition is something that is telling you what the future literally is. That's what intuition is. A man can have intuition too, but his intuition is really tied to ones and twos. Like, am I going to go or stop right now? With her intuition is, okay, am I going to indulge a certain way? Or am I going to indulge a different way? Like, she has more options in her mind because women's minds are more colorful. You see what I'm saying? So like when their intuition start kicking in, they don't quite get to the point in their mind, oh, I probably need to bounce and ghost right now. That's not how women operate. Their intuition starts telling them something's going on. They're going to just start watching real closely. See what I'm saying? If a man's intuition says she was up with another dude this morning, he's not going to watch nothing. He going to go that night when she come in, he going to be sniffing, and he probably going to approach her and ask her, like listen, what's the deal? Women, they're not that direct. No. So this is what I'm saying. You're not smarter because you have more access to that intuitive side. That doesn't mean you're smarter at how to use it, because truth be told, intuition is something that it takes a special kind of person to understand that. Like one time I was in Florida and I took my son to Disney World, and he was big enough to be at the pool by himself. He was. And I went upstairs just for a little bit, get freshened up and stuff like that, because we were going out that night. And then suddenly I'm doing my hair, and then I just get this pulsating feeling like, you need to leave now. And I'm like, my logic kicked in. I was like, hold on, we're at the Four Seasons. I'm resting. Like, this is my vacation time. I'm not going nowhere fast. Like, and then it came back again, just like a lot. And I'm like, damn, what the hell? What's going on? So then it's like, you need to go back to the pool. Like, something's at the pool. I rush down to the pool. Nothing's happening. Then I turn around and I'm like, my intuition ain't never been wrong, y'all. Like, I just rushed down here. And if this happened, I'm going to have a new perspective in my life. Do you know within 30 seconds, you had children that was on the verge of dying, and I had to literally save my son from dying within 30 seconds of coming down there. And if I wasn't standing there at the moment, what would have happened? That's how on point intuition is. Like, it's more than just a feeling. It's more than just you having a connection to your a side of you that is in tune with nature. It's more than that. It has its connection spiritually in terms of time dilation. And I know I'm getting kind of controversial, but y'all know I'll be on, the Black Files, and we be doing stuff like that.
No, I love listening, man.
Intuition is time for real.
Let me ask you one question though. As far as Princella, do you think people are kind of wasting their time even debating her? Because it almost seems like her definition of love is almost rigged to the point where she can't be wrong. Based if it's like her personal definition.
It's on her personal definition. Well, here's the thing, right? I don't think it's a waste of time, but I think it's a good thing. And I think it's a good thing because for a long time, you've had women overly indulging in let's say a society that's overly consumed with a Disney ending, right?
Oh, okay.
And then you have men on the other side who's dealing with something totally different, and they're on a whole nother situation, and they're meeting in the middle, and there's these problems where stuff ain't really like gelling together, right? So now you have on the men's side, the rise of MGTOW. And now you got the rise of the queen makers. You understand? Which is the same thing as MGTOW. It really is. It's a balance effect. And this is why I tell people there's nothing out of balance in the universe. If you see something crazy going on, that's balancing something else out. So just understand that. So Princella keeps everybody in check. If you're the type of female where you get hurt and you want to blame the man instead of taking the responsibility on yourself to do your inner work, right? You're going to end up by yourself doing whatever it is they do over there. If you're the type of person that take accountability, you're going to end up not on the other side per se, but you're going to end up in a better circumstance in your life because you will literally be leveled up at that point. Now, I will say this. I like the fact that Princella, her message keeps men and women thinking. That's what's happening. When she said men can't love, the manosphere had to stop and say, pause, whatever we was talking about, we got to get at this girl. And getting at her means you got to actually get into some books. It means you got to actually decide, do you love a woman or don't you love a woman? Like, are you showing that love or not? Which one are you doing? Because you're not going to challenge this girl and then you not actually showing what you're talking about. This ain't no general debate here. So I like the fact that her conversation, and as flawed as it may be, it keeps every side on their toes. And now you can't just sit and say, well, men don't do anything wrong or women are the prize and everything else doesn't matter. You can't do that because you got too many sides that's holding each other accountable now. Because before I felt like men were just running off like a cliff, literally. And now it seems like women are just running off a cliff. But it's like, listen, you see all these people running off these cliffs? They not down there screaming for no reason. Okay. So if you like, you won't go over that cliff, you do that on your own time. But it keeps everybody, as they say, iron sharpens iron. Yeah. I think that's what that purpose that she's serving. And just like Kevin saying, I think that serves that purpose to keep everybody sharp.
Yeah, no, I actually think what she's doing is good. Like you said, I think it's forcing that conversation, like you said. So I think eventually everybody's going to meet in the middle after they debate it out and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I just be sitting back, listen, I don't see why people get so worked up. Because like you said, no, she got some solid points, as far as like what she's making people come. It's like you got to come a little ready. So I do like that about her. So
she ain't the type that just sit on a panel and try to be like a yes girl and just try to come off like, she's just all for, the family and men. Because like I said, every aspect of love isn't positive, right? So no, she's not gonna sit there and say, well, like she said about her own husband. That she says he's a good father, but she also says I don't want him.
Yeah.
You feel me? So yeah, that's why I say like it. I'll tell you this, right? If a man hears her message and then he go out there and say I love you and don't, you talking about a cold brother right there. Cold brother.
But I mean, I guess you can say the same thing about a woman if she goes out there and says I love you and
and then don't mean
there for the resources.
That's extra cold because see, in Princella's mind, women are love, right? They are the love, right? And like I said, even though she says women have more of a capability to love, she treats the conversation as if women are loving, and because they're the prize, they just automatically give love. And even in her own story, right, her relationship with her grandmother showed you that she never received love for her grandmother. Her grandmother literally never loved her and her sibling. And, that's a woman. Okay. So, and her father wasn't a person that showed her that he didn't love her. It was a grandmother. So, this is what I'm saying. Like, as flawed as her argument is, it teaches us that as women, we are not what we consider to be just the epitome of everything nice, and boys are made of puppy dog, tails and stuff like that. Like those days are over. Like those days are over. Women can be puppy dog tails and snails too. Like they really can.
Yeah, I just I don't really know too much about her, but just from the conversations I've seen of her, like whether it's like clips or whether it just to me it doesn't seem like she's that deep. It just seems like somebody who's had a bad or negative experience and they're like projecting that on an entire gender. And I mean, there's plenty of men who do it on the man's side, but I think like the MAGTOW movement is like it's men going their own way, like just saying, hey, we're not dealing with this. But there's no hidden agenda of like we should be together. Like all of us guys, let's just like
it sounds pretty sus to me. Like
it may seem sus, but there's not that overarching like, hey, men should be with men. Like there's none of that going on the MAGTOW.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Versus with the Queenmaker, it's like it's biased. And it's like almost like you can't, if you only like women, you would try to make more women come to that side. I think women who try to convert straight women into, experiencing, that other side, that's like 101 out of their book. It's like, hey, let's convince that men are the devil, or the men can't do something, or that all men are bad because inherently, they're just programmed that way. So it's just like, that's just not really it's not even an original concept. So I have trouble really understanding it outside of the, her own personal trauma and, personal disinterest in men. And there's plenty of women who experience that as well, who are just like, hey, you know what? I've given up. But I think that speaks more to the lack of resilience in quitting rather than understanding that and taking accountability that, hey, maybe you missed some signs that were apparent, and that not projecting all your negative trauma on a specific gender.
Right. Well, you know what? When she wrote that book, right, or both her books, she was a well-kept woman by a married man to her. Like, I never had a man do what her husband did for me. Like, she was a well-kept woman when she wrote them books. So when it comes to trauma, it definitely wasn't her husband that put her through that trauma, because he was keeping her well. She was at home, he was working. She just created this whatever. So this is one of the points that people kind of come down on her about. But I'll say this about one point that she makes. She says, because she has said that she's not telling women to go and be, homosexual. She's not saying go do that, but she is suggesting that, it's a better side, right? But then at the same time, what she does say that I wholeheartedly agree with is that if you deal with men in the same way you're dealing with women, expecting them to operate up here like how women operate because you're a woman and that's what you know, and you don't want to study them to understand how to deal with them, you're making the biggest mistake, and you need to accept men for however they come to the table. And she said that to heterosexual women. If you're heterosexual, right, why are you looking for your man to act like a woman? That's a valid question. That's not her trying to get you to be, homosexual. That is, well, if men tell you that this is how we think, we don't need the word salad, please keep it short because of the way our minds work, and all you want to do is give soliloquies about simple stuff. Clearly, you probably don't care about the fact that they're a man. You're looking for them to respond like a woman. And that is true. Like, and I even had to check myself on that. Like, and this is why, like, when men ask me questions now in my personal life, I don't start with my answer. I start with yes or no. That way I orient their mind. Because if you start with, well, what happened was that there's a gray in this, it's not yes or no, and let me explain to you how I got there, halfway through, men are gone. But when you answer yes or no, and then you say there's a reason for this, then they have a reason to listen to what you're talking about, because they know the answer and they just need to understand. That's how I get through now with men. That just that simple little thing about how they think I had to change. But keep in mind, I didn't change it because I felt like I just wanted to just be this great communicator. When I deal with animals, I deal with animals based on their nature, not my nature. Like when I walk past a pit bull, I don't walk past a pit bull like it's a baby. I walk past that pit bull and respect the fact that that bite force is stronger than my kick. So I don't do certain things. Like I'm just saying, like I do it. You feel me? Like even with our regular pets, we communicate with our pets based on how they communicate. Like if your dog is sick, it's not going to come and tell you, "Hey, I'm sick." You have to understand the signs of I'm sick, how it's communicating back to you. So why is it that, and most women like dogs and cats, why is it that you know how what your dog and your cat is saying to you, right? Because you study how they think. You've invested time into that communication. But when it comes to other human beings, you just don't care. You see what I'm saying? I think Princella makes a good point that if you are heterosexual and you say you love men, you have to love how they naturally are. You can't love what you think you're going to make them after you get with them and make them this different way. No, she makes a valid point on that. I will give her that.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. But like Manic was saying, and this is why I asked you earlier about the whole like love type thing. Because I definitely like how you made it spiritual. And when I asked you like if it's good and bad, I totally agree with that. But that's why I was just saying, like, I focus on actions. I think love is like by definition, because like you said, everybody's gonna put their own spin on it. It's almost like a worthless word at that point. So I think that's where people spend too much time trying to define it and all that stuff. So yeah, that's why I'm just like, man, look at somebody's actions and stuff. So definitely she has some solid stuff when she's talking about like accepting people for who they are. Cause I do think like there's that element of ego when people try to like change people and stuff like that. So
like when some people say I'm a married woman and make an honest woman out of her, I'd be like, really? You're gonna make an honest woman out of her? You're gonna marry him and you're gonna give him time to stop running them streets?
Yeah, because that's actually why I like what you were saying about the communication piece. Because I think both of y'all had a good point where it's like, I think you got to use a combination of both. Like you said, sometimes you got to pull out that information and you got to be good at like reading those cues off of people and stuff like that. Because a lot of people are terrible, especially when they got that infatuation. You know, they're going to just latch on and they want to accept any answer. They're even going to justify some of the stuff that they see and like, well, it's not that bad, like you said. So now I like that communication piece.
No, and I did a slight example of this, but I reversed it. When I was on Chris the Rebels channel, there was a guy who had called in and I asked him a question. I said, what kind of dog do you have? Right. And I wanted to see if he was going to answer me exactly the name of the dog or was he going to go into something else? Right. So he went into something else. Right. And so I asked him when he went in something else, I said, oh, so what you're saying is this, right? So then he went and then changed it a little bit. And then I let him do that like 4 times. And then I came back and I said, now you see how when a man doesn't answer a question directly because he's a man, how me as a woman, I will take that conversation and make it a whole flower pot in my mind. And at the end of the day, we ain't went no damn way. Okay. But this is the nature of men and women. And I was trying to show him that the way you act makes sense because you're a man. The way your mind works makes sense because you're a man. My mind only makes sense the way you think in life or death circumstances. That's the only time it makes sense for me. And the only time the way I think makes sense for you is when you're trying to be creative. That's the only time to think like a woman actually works for you in your benefit. Other than that, you can't think like me in times of like a woman in an emergency situation. You can't afford that. Vice versa. So it's like when it comes to ideas around how women and men think, it's just a matter of understanding how you think, how you communicate, and then understanding how something else thinks and communicates and coming to the middle. And saying, okay, how can we communicate? Like I got people right now developing tools to understand what dolphins are talking about.
Yeah.
And they actually are doing that. I seen some stuff like last month that had me like, I don't care what they talking about that much, huh? Whatever they got down there, I don't care. But this is like I'm just saying, like I don't care. But this is how much we invest in communication. But we don't invest that time in communication with ourselves unless we're in therapy. Then we might.
Yeah. One of the things you said when you talk to men, you give the yes or no, and then you go to the explanation because if you don't give that yes or no, then you'll lose them. But do you feel that's a gender thing? Because I feel like that's with all people, especially if you're a person who's long-winded. Like I'm long-winded myself. So I recognize that I do need to give a solid, framework before I start getting into like the intrinsic details, because not everybody is going to be able to follow along, whether or not they're intellectually capable to follow along, or sometimes it may be they're just not that interested in the subject. So, but I don't find that it's only men that I have to do it for, or I just feel like it's just people. It just depends on their interest.
I would say generally I do find it to be gender specific, but I'm not saying like that's across the board. No, because like at work, I always say yes or no, and then I give the details, or I give a definitive name and then the details. I don't give the details and then the name is somewhere in there. So I give straight and then like that at work, because at work there's a certain culture and time is sensitive, and it doesn't matter about man or woman at work. However, in my personal life, I have seen no every single man in my life, okay, needs a yes or no from me, and then an explanation after that.
But I think that's probably because you're long-winded.
Right. So they need a yes or no.
No, because I think when you communicate with females, man, they do like details and description, like maybe not too drawn out, but guys, we're just like she said, man. It's just like, hey, give me the what they call them bottom line up front bluffs. It's like yes or no, quick little description, so I can tone out after I get the yes or no. Maybe I might listen, maybe I won't, but I already know what the issue is, so I can go solve it.
You know what? The way y'all say, like the way you just said, man, about. Okay, I give the details first. Even inside of you saying that as a man, you're talking about pertinent details that need to be understood in succession so that the idea can make sense towards a goal. When a woman gives details, she's going to back it up, then bring it forward, then take it on out. And you're going to hear stuff that you're going to be like, what this got to do with the price of tea in China? But as a woman, I understand what she's saying. Like something like that happened on a panel before, and a woman was trying to explain, right? And I understood instinctively what she was saying. She didn't even really have to finish. I knew what she was saying, but all the men on the panel was like, can you just get to the point? What are you talking about? Why are we talking about that? That happened 2 days before the situation. Why are you even talking about? Like they was just so irritated with what she was saying. But I knew, but keep in mind, I'm working with the same biology she's working with. So that's what I'm saying. Generally, yeah, I've found that it is somewhat gender specific, but then not all the time. Yeah, no, not all.
Yeah, but you also have to take into account that, some of these dudes on these panels are not the brightest. So a lot of impatience going on. There's a lot of hate. It's a lot of incels. There's a lot of
this is true.
Negative energy because they're not getting the type of results that they want in their life with women. So, having a woman speak, is almost
I have to factor that in. Yeah, you have to factor that in. But then too, I have met people like in my personal life where they're smart, but hearing too much information, right, can literally take away from their ability to string ideas together. They have to have small bits of information, and then over a certain amount of time, not a lot consistently. Now, I like that because that's how I think. But I have, at first it came off to me like maybe they have a mental like deficiency and like maybe like a medical situation. Then after time I realized like, no, they're very intelligent with information, but the way they can take information in is not the same way I can take it in. My mind works fast on a lot of information. Their minds work fast on little information, and they can almost intuit better with that than I can. You give me a yes or no and 4 extra words, I'm not going to be able to help. But if you give me words, you only have to give me a subject matter. Oh, I can figure that out and in a short amount of time. So, but that's me. And I know as a woman, I tend to understand when women go on, tangents. I know why they're going on a tangent. Like when a woman, before she starts telling you about what happened, she goes back to this morning, I woke up with a headache. I took some medicine. It didn't go away. And then by the time I got here, this is what happened. And the reason she's telling me about what happened in the morning is because she's giving me context to her response at 2 in the afternoon. Most men don't want to hear about what happened when she woke up and how she was feeling, and the fact that it kept on feeling that way, and the medicine didn't work after 12. And when she looked up, it was still not like that. Like, that's going to kill their brain cells. So that I'm just saying, like, it's just a matter of like learning communication. But this is my experience so far. And also, the main person I go to is my dad. But given he's from a different era than me, I'll be honest with you, that has been difficult. Yeah, it's been difficult. The way he thinks is not the way the average man my age thinks. Yeah, and it's kind of been difficult to make that adjustment between men.
Why would you say that? Is he just way more knowledgeable, or just the way he communicates it to you? Is he like, just get to the damn point? Why would you say that?
Very much get to the point. But my dad is like, and he doesn't like when I say this because he doesn't like the money factor. But my dad, personality wise, is like James Evans, and yeah, he kind of looks like James Evans too a little bit. But he that's James Evans. Like, he had the same type of job James Evans had with that big overhaul thing, working in a steel mill. Coming home, like that was him. That attitude that he had, like, suck up, like, that was him. And so the way he isn't the way I see men today. But I get it; it's men of men. So yeah, that's my bumpy boat ride as a woman trying to merge. It didn't help. I tell you that it didn't help.
But we'll go ahead. We'll jump into the third question. So what relationship dynamic is best, traditional versus modern in today's society? What is your preferred relationship type that you would think would be best suited for you?
I don't like either. And I never take a side on that because I hate both. Yeah. Back in 1855.
Damn.
Relationships at that time, relationships were considered modern, because not all people, at the end of slavery, certain people, especially Black people, were getting married, and they felt like these are modern times. Then in 1955, women being skinny was a modern thing. I saw magazines with people saying the new modern woman feels 120 pounds is the average weight. The modern woman is 100. And I'm like, so what was a traditional woman to you if a regular body is modern? What are you talking about? But then now in 2023, we're well beyond how women look. Now it doesn't matter how a woman looks. A modern woman is just a woman that literally is doing other things other than getting married. That's essentially a modern woman. I feel like that definition is going to continue to transition now. It used to be every 50 years, but now it's more like every 10. Like, it's just like every 10 years it's just changed. But that's the issue with the modern part. The traditional part, the problem I have with that is there's no such thing as a traditional marriage. And I mean that very literally, like a single traditional marriage. Have you ever heard of a walking marriage?
Mm-mm.
That's older than the nuclear family and the tradition of the nuclear family. That's an older tradition of marriage than that. And that is actually tradition. And a walking marriage is where society stays separate based on family structure. Meaning, if you're a man, you have you get married to a woman, right? In a sense, and you have sex with her, and you guys have a baby, but you do not live with her. You live with your family and your sisters and their children. Your children will be raised by their mother and her brothers. So that's called a walking marriage. So you guys can see each other, but the family dynamic is we all live with our family. We don't leave our families to live together to have kids. No, you stay with your family, take care of your mama, grandmama, uncles, and all of that, and your nieces and nephews, and that's what's going to happen on my side too. That's a walking marriage. You see that more so in the Asian countries. Over there in Tibet, there's more men to women in ratio. They have more of a reverse polygyny situation, meaning that you have one woman to multiple men. Now it's not just multiple men, it's brothers. So that was a traditional marriage, meaning you marry up to 5 to 6 brothers at a time living in the same house. And actually often the children don't know which one is their father, because technically, genetically, all of them are their father. Okay. But they never know. So they call everybody dad, because that is either dad or uncle, whichever one. But that's a traditional marriage too. Like, people want to say traditional marriage is the nuclear family and everything that went into that in the dark ages of Europe. That is not true. A traditional marriage can be anything from that I just explained to a man and 600 women. Remember that guy? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was a traditional marriage too. So what are we talking about? And this is why I hate when people say, I want a traditional marriage. Every time I hear that, I'll be like, what year and where are you talking about of this traditional marriage?
I agree with you.
Like right now,
I just don't, because even like you said, I like how, we try to, like, we always preach. It's like, man, both terms is kind of stupid when you kind of think about it, because it's like, man, you're going to do a hybrid of what works. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So it's just like, even modern, we were asking somebody earlier, it was like, man, how did they get like such a, bad, I'll say, like, negative connotation and stuff like that? Because like, you look at a definition, it means it's more or less like you're advancing and stuff like that, or changing. So where they just slap it on every female. Like, you could be over there eating ice cream, they're like, oh, there goes a modern woman. I'm like, God damn, like, ain't no issue with it. I mean, there's, I'm just like, man, there's good and bad. Like, I get it if you're like, hey, here's some good traits, here's some bad traits, label it like that. But this whole like traditional modern, like you said, man, which I got the stage coaches and stuff.
So to answer that second part, Mr. Oshun, what is your preferred relationship type?
My preferred relationship type is survival. That's my preferred relationship type. I prefer that based on the current circumstances, what are we looking at and where do we need to pivot and how, based on where we're at right now. When it comes to resources in this country, at least, we don't have many resources. We import resources. We don't have a whole lot of manufacturing jobs. Most jobs are up here. Like, it's no physical nothing you're doing. Like, it's not it. That's most jobs. So men and women are not coming to the table with needing the same things anymore that they used to. They're coming to the table with the same access to the same resources. So at the end of the day, how does that affect their needs for one another? It definitely affects their needs for one another. So what else do they come to the table with? I feel like right now, a good marriage right now is a marriage that takes into account where we're at least economically, where we're at socially as a society and culturally, and saying what's best for this circumstance that we're in. Like, you ever seen a couple that try to be like, traditional, where the guy goes out and work and the woman stays at home, but meanwhile, the reason why they're poor, they're unhappy and on the verge of getting a divorce is because he can't sustain the household with just his income. She needs a babysitter, but he can't afford that. He can't come home and just rest because there's too much going on at home. She needs to get out, but she can't because she has no income and no way to make income. And then it's like all this extra stuff, because the truth is, you're not in the time where a 19-year-old man could afford 10 children by himself. You're not in that time anymore. My great-grandfather had a head of almost 20 children with my great-grandmother. One income. You ain't never seeing that now. You will never see it now. So why act like you are my great-grandmother as a woman? Why act like that? It's no purpose. But I see most people are going to say, well, the men are still the leaders and the women are still this. Sure, we still have biological functions that kind of drive our positionings with each other, right? But when it comes to how we deal in relationships, like, what's wrong with saying we both come to the table with the same thing? And now it's just a matter of saying, characteristic wise, do we belong at this table? Because before, everybody belonged at the table because you could have a baby and you got a good backside to go work in them fields. Now, as a man, you got to prove that you can hold a conversation. As a woman, you just can't lay on your back anymore. Mm-hmm. What are you gonna do now? Are you gonna stay traditional, or are you gonna keep up with the times? Which one? But even in non-traditional relationships, it's still going on the same trajectory. Like if let's suppose you have the other persuasion, what are you looking for in a person? You're not looking for food, clothing, and shelter like my great-great-great-grandmother. No, you're looking for the same things. So it's like relationships are changing because needs are changing. Like men, they can pay for everything a woman can give them. I'll be honest with you, even a baby. Look at Michael Jackson. Okay. Now, even if Michael didn't want a baby mother, he could probably afford to have his children grown in his backyard. But this is just where we at. I'm just saying, like at some point, Michael was rich, but this is where we're at. But men don't want babies by machines. They want families that they can feel proud of. They don't just want babies. You see what I'm saying? Women don't just want resources from men. They want to feel secured by somebody that cares enough to give them that. That's different than just having the security of money through a person or a machine or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like if you want to say, I want a traditional marriage where I stay home and he go out to work, I guess you could say that's traditional because a lot of people did that. But I'm be honest with you, there's more cultures in this world through time that have had traditional as women working just as hard, just as long as men. I don't know no culture where the women didn't work in the field while the man was working someplace else. Like traditionally, like in Africa, as a woman, you had to produce, not just children either. You had to actually produce something. Like even now, like even if you're in a polygynous marriage as a woman, and let's say you're a third or fourth wife, you have to generate income for that house. Unless you're married to the president or something like that, you have to generate income for that house. You can't just be sitting around taking up space, not earning your keep. Like that's not how the tradition goes. So when we say traditional, right? Tradition says women work. They just don't work like men, but women work. Now, some of them they did, but I don't know too many traditions where women just don't work and they just at home not doing nothing. It's like, what tradition is that?
Yeah, I ain't seen it either.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question because I like what you were spitting right there when you were talking about the. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, before you ask me the question, I just want to make a. So you're more on the 50-50 as far as like both parties should be contributing something.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and go on record. I'm gonna go on record and say. I
appreciate that. I needed that.
I'm going on record and say I am more of support of the 50-50, but not in the sense of how people traditionally.
Hey, we can wrap this up.
We got Oshun on record. 50-50.
I'm more in support of 50-50, not because I feel like men should do what women do, not like that. But what I mean by 50-50 is this. Everybody has to contribute to make this work 100%. So there's two people. You're one half of that relationship. Right. I don't care how you contribute 50%. You have to be contributing, period.
Yeah. So, Jerk, what were you about to ask? I didn't mean to cut you off. I just had to get that on.
No. We can focus on this because when people hear it, man, it just gets so, like you said, it's like, man, we got to make sure our house is efficient. And like you were describing, it's like the needs change.
Yeah.
Because even if you look at the stats with like so-called traditional marriages, like I had to break it down to like a couple of people. I'm like, a lot of those traditional women that don't work, they end up divorcing at higher rates because they don't have that fulfillment. Like you said, it's like you're trapping yourself in a bad cycle where you can't go out, you can't enjoy life, you can't be adults with each other.
Nope.
So it's just overall, I think a lot of people need to sit back and assess stuff. And it's just like, hey, we come together, we could change some dynamics. If I empty the dishwasher, man, it won't make me less of a man to help out with that. Or, we both make sure that we're paying down debt, beating this out and investing in different things so we can have like a vacation home is actually smarter. So it's just like, yeah, I think people got to change their mindsets. But I like what you were saying on resource part. Yeah. That sounded kind of dark, but I have the same assessment. Like, boy, this is about to get ugly in America. And I don't think people are even like thinking about that, just even with the inflation and stuff. Because, it's funny. We had a podcast before And we were like talking about this, and I mentioned something. This was probably like a year ago. I'm like, man, y'all know like Phoenix and that area, they're running out of water. Like those at like historic lows, and people every time I say it, they're just like, "Oh, we don't care." I'm like, man, it's about to get real up here. So I know you mentioned that. You think you're kind of seeing the same thing?
I'm seeing the same exact thing, but it's like keep in mind people's ideas is I want the soft life, like my great grandmother, or like the rich women. And the thing is, notice this, right? Think of any picture of your grandmother and your great grandmothers all the way back, and look at all the movies of women, let's say Martin Luther King's time and back. Those women were never at home doing nothing, just doing housework. You know when they did housework? When they came home from nursing white babies, wet nursing. When they came home from their maid jobs. When they came home from working in them working as a sharecropper part-time. That's when they came home and made a home. That's when they came home. You see what I'm saying? When they were nurses for or whatever. Like there's never been a time, at least in my community, in the African-American community, that we were not working both and just as hard. There's never been a time when marriage consisted of mostly black women at home just baking cookies and taking care of kids. Like when has that ever happened? I got pictures of my grandmother in the house I grew up in holding a white baby while he's nursing, and my grandfather is at work at the gas and electric company. My great grandfather's at work. He come home, he don't know how to read, but she do. And so she paying all the bills with his money after she then went working as a wet nurse. And the reason why is because he owned properties and they were trying to actually like build something as a couple so that they could have wealth to pass on, which they did. Today, I mean, I've inherited my father's estate, and my father's estate was my my great grandfather's estate. So, I mean, that's what they did at the time because they wanted more than just essentially scraps. And you got to remember the Depression was literally that. And everywhere in America wasn't Tulsa. So, you know, like this whole thing of traditional marriage where I stay home and take care of the kids, it's like that might be an idea that came out of Europe, but even in Europe, was that really how women was treated?
Yeah, nah.
You know,
totally agree with you. You know, especially when you got somebody that's like smart and you know, could go out there and use their, you know, instead of just being in the house doing like little chores and shit. It's just like, man, why not let somebody loose? But do you think it's kind of like an insecurity to a certain degree? Is it's like, hey, I want this person away from other people. Do you think that plays a part of that?
I definitely think it plays a part of that, but I think it well, at least from what I see, it plays a part as far as a man, like when he says, well, I just want you to be home, right? Knowing that you pay more in divorce for at home wife, right? That don't work or get her education, you're going to pay more when it breaks up. That is because it's an issue of ego to say, I want to be able to tell you what to do and feel good to the fact that you have to do it or you will do it. And I want you home doing what I want you to do that saves me any type of anything, whether it be money, whether it be time, whether it be just my concern where you at. I just want what I want, right? But truth be told, when she's not fulfilled for whatever reason and she needs to get out, you gonna pay top dollar to keep her at the level you had her at while she was purposely going uneducated to take care of you. Now, that's what happened to my father. He wanted my mother at home taking care of his children, and he got that. But then when they broke up, the judge was saying, how many years did you demand that she was uneducated and unemployed? Okay, well, based on the logic, the calculation, like this is what you're going to have to pay for the rest of her life. And my father didn't understand why is he paying for her for the rest of her life. But then I had to break it down to my own father that when she left you, she was in her older years. So her getting back on the job market is something that she probably will never do, trying to go back to college at that age with kids. It's just not going to happen. So you're going to put her and the kids in poverty simply because you broke up with her. So now the judge is saying, oh, no, you can't do that. That means that, you know, the taxpayers have to pay for your kids. No, you need to pay her spousal support, child support, and pay her bills.
Oh, she was spitting that game today.
And in one sentence, why do you think there's a decline in marriages? It's like a great segue into it. In one sentence,
oh my
you can summarize everything.
Oshun, like, shoot,
Oh
I need
One sentence. Okay, one sentence. Okay, let me do this. I can do it. I'm smart. One sentence. Why is it declining? Okay, I'm gonna lean in on this one. Marriage rates are declining in today's society because there are too many factors acting on marriage at the same time that wasn't years ago.
I like that.
Oh, we killed that one. All right, I'm going to and we clipping that too. I'm going to the next one. And I won't say one sentence, but just like what are your thoughts? I want to give us some time to get to the next question. So do you think a lot of men fear smart and successful women?
I don't think men fear smart and successful women. I don't think they fear that. Not for what the word fear means, right? I don't think they're expecting something that's not really there. Like, I think they know what's there, and the truth is, it is there. I think they doubt their capacity to thrive in a relationship with a woman like that. I don't
Look
think
at you with the politically correct answer. Okay,
I like that.
I see you.
I don't think they're afraid of it at all. I mean, I think if it wasn't for certain other elements, they probably would embrace it more. But the reality is going to hit of what you're dealing with. It's just like any thoroughbreed dog that you got. It's like, it's going to cost you more. It's going to, I know. It's going to cost you more. You're going to have to know how it just takes more. And the thing is, right, you got to be ready for what comes with that level of a dog. Like, some dogs, you can't just let it sit in the house and think that it's not going to get sick. Some dogs, they need space. Listen, it's just a thing.
A smart woman is like a thoroughbred dog.
It comes with a cost. It comes with a cost, and you got to be up to par for that. And I don't mean cost as in money, but I do mean as when you say you're dealing with a smart woman, you have to know how to gauge a smart woman in a conversation, or else you'll feel belittled all the time. Because truth be told, you could be like, I don't know, an uneducated man dealing with an extremely smart woman, but you have to understand who she is and that intellect. You see what I'm saying? So when you understand that intellect, you understand how to gauge it. But if you just see it as, oh my God, this is a lot, and I don't know if I could combat her when she come at me with all the info, it's like, sometimes you can, as a man, just like my great grandfather, he couldn't read, and he just was like real broken in English. And my grandmother, my great grandmother, she was the engine of the family in the house. But she wasn't smarter than him, like not like that. But she was quicker up here than him, but she wasn't smarter than him, and he understood that. And like when she would talk, at least from the stories that I heard, he was a man that didn't say much. He just he knew what he needed, and he knew how to ask for it, and he didn't argue at all. Like, he just didn't. And if something went wrong, he just let her figure it out. Like, he listen, it's your job, figure it out. Like, he just didn't get into it. Like, he didn't gauge her intellect at all. Like, he didn't do it.
Sounds like your great grandfather was a genius.
I think he was, because he was a guy like my father said.
I don't talk a lot, so I'm not going to talk to you.
He did.
But it's funny.
There's problems. I'm not even going to solve. You got it.
But you got it. Like, there was a time when there was a party, and at the house I grew up in, and there was a lady who was, as we would say today, twerking. And my great grandmother thought that my great grandfather was looking at her, too much, and he was attracted to her, and whatever the case may be. And she lived in the neighborhood, so there was that issue. But then my grandfather, when my grandmother approached him, according to my dad, my grandfather didn't say anything. He just said, "What do you want me to do?" And my grandmother, she went on her soliloquy about, looking and looking. He said, "Do you want me to close my eyes every time I see her? Because I will do it. I will. What do you want me to do? Every time I see her, if I'm driving, I'm going to close my eyes. And don't ask me to open them. And if we get into a car accident, I love you, babe."
That's that old school game.
He's like, I do whatever you ask me to do. But when I do it, don't do it. And like I'm playing.
So like, how do I
That was how that's how they communicated. But that's the thing. She was smart and she was very savvy too. That's why he married her. But he didn't gauge that intellect in a way like, like, man, I don't want her to get one up on me, because she got one up on him all the time. But not in the sense of, well, you don't know anything. Like, she always got one up on him because she knew how to count, read, and do all sorts of stuff. He didn't. But now people would say, look, I don't want no woman that is educated because she's going to think she's better. And it's like, no, that's not how it goes. People that are elitists think they're better. Not people that have had to educate themselves think that they're better. I've seen whole doctors making $400,000 a year, no shoes on, sitting down on dirt food with family.
Yeah, that's fair.
So fast forward 100 years from now, what does the future relationship dynamic look like? So I know you took us back in the past in 1855, and then you went to 1988. So in 2123, we're in the 2100s. What does the future?
I kind of almost want to save this question for a whole other live, man.
Yeah.
Because I
don't want to rush it, man, because I heard you going down this path and stuff, and even with the resources, I want to. You got to come back because we got to break that down. Because leave that question because I want to hit that one later, man. We got to have you back.
You're gonna have to, because that's a loaded question. Because keep in mind, like I said, it's the way it is today because of all these different factors that is affecting it. So it's not just tradition changing. No. It's the climate that causes things to change. That, it's the amount of children people can have that changes marriage dynamics. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For instance, children with
oh no, you gotta say that. You gotta say that.
Yeah, we were because I told you it was funny just to give everybody some context. Like I heard you spitting some of this on a live, and man, I had to go somewhere, so I had to leave. I was listening on my phone. I'm like, damn, I can't find the video, but he was breaking it down, but it ties into a lot of that stuff, and I think people need to start thinking. It's like if people really want to advance, man, you got to start maneuvering a little different. So we definitely got to cook on that one. We're gonna keep that one.
Because I was gonna say, if you can find that video, that would be fine.
Yeah, man, I can't.
Listen, I got my spew on what the future holds. But I'll be honest with you, some people might think what I'm gonna say is very dark. But
the future's good. I think it's dark. I'm with you on that. I don't think it's gonna be that bright. So it's like
it's gonna
there's
feel
a lot
dark.
Of people out here. So
hey, Manic, what was that one movie? It was I remember I watched it because you were like, hey, you got to watch this because it was like the avatars, or it was kind of like a cartoon movie, and the guy had to climb up there, but he fell off. Alita or something like that.
Oh, Alita. Oh, yeah, Alita.
What is that?
Yeah, it's like a what was the name of that? What kind of movie was it?
I think it was Alita. It's a sci-fi.
Okay.
Alita Battle Angel.
But it was.
Yeah,
I had a weird concept that kind of tied into that too. I've been watching a lot of sci-fi movies, so man, I think a lot of this stuff is going to play out, and I'm gonna pick your brain on this one.
It breaks down the old tale of the haves and the have-nots, and there's this battle that they're people are like robots, like cyborgs, and the people at the top kind of run these games, and they're fun, entertaining, but they have real life implications, people die through this stuff. And essentially, if you win, you can make it to the top. You can go into the next, pretty much the people who are the haves, they're up here. And if you win this battle, or the rest of the lowlifes, or the peasants, or where everybody else stays, if you win this battle, then you get to live up there. And it's this social dynamic, and there's a twist where she has a real relationship, and then it's a funny moment that's very real. It's man, this dude has been rocking with her. He sees an opportunity and just I'm making it up. Forget what we had.
Oh my god, I forget what we had.
Yeah. My man was I'm so climbing up here. I'm going at any cost.
I can see it now. He's I know it's up there. We always knew it's up there, but it's literally that close. Like, do I stay back and like, help? Like, no, I got my shot. If I make it up there, then I'm good.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give too much of the movie away, but it's a pretty good movie, and it definitely has that element or dynamic.
Yeah, we're gonna go dark on this next one. We going in.
That's I'll text you the movie.
Yeah, text that to me.
And then you can watch it, and then we can
we can
definitely talk about it.
Yeah,
and then talk about this question too. So
yeah, because it's definitely deep, and I can see where it can go several places, but really, it's that wide because of where we're at right now, and where we're at right now is a precipice, meaning it's like getting to the middle of the road, the crossroad, and now you have all these different roads to go down, and it's good in a way, right? Because you have choices, but then in another way, it's not good because it's so many roads that now picking the wrong road is even easier to do. So it's like the gift and the curse. But then when you look at, well, if this is a curse, what are we looking at? Well, we can look at what's going on right now and see the trajectory of what's happening. And a lot of people think, well, it's just about, well, relationships just will get bad. No. You don't understand what bad is and where life is actually going, because we live in a bubble. And this bubble is our communities, right? And in America, we just live in America. We don't live in the world. We just live in America. Because it's just who we are. So you don't really understand where society is actually going globally, especially when it comes to marriages. Like, I was looking at some trends over in Asia, and I just noticed that even in your third world countries, they're all trying to follow America. Everybody's following the trend of America. So therefore, what we do, it trickles over every 100 years. And when we do something, it trickles back over. But what's happening is, because the cultures are so different there, the world is changing there in a way that it's not changing here, because we sit at the front. So we don't see how the world is changing, because we really don't see it. We just don't see it. Like, for instance, infanticide, right? We don't really see that here. It's a foreign concept to us, but it happens every day in other countries, and it's normal. But now that people are looking to the West and they're saying, well, wait a minute, we can have children. We don't have to, do that to certain genders of children anymore. Like, we could actually get jobs, like, and not have to physically work. Like, we can be like the West, and everybody sits home and gets paid lots of money. And now people can travel all over the world and work for the same companies and not have to go into an office now. So, what are we talking about? The world is changing, but relationships are also changing as well. But it's changing in a way that, as Americans, we can't really fathom, because we're here and we're facing forward. We're not looking back. We're facing forward.
He's like, I'm gonna answer this question anyway.
No, trust me, that was just the tip. That was the tip.
Okay, that was the tip of the iceberg.
That's the tip. I ain't giving you no context. That's just the tip.
Yeah, no, we definitely gonna break that down, because like she said, I think it's so many layers. I'm with you. It's just like, man, you got to go down that path, because I think, I'm big on sharing information with people, but I think I was just so excited because I was the only one that had like these dark dots and stuff. So when you were breaking it down, I'm like, oh shit, I'm not going crazy. So I'll be reading these articles. I'll be sitting in a Manic and stuff. People be like, yeah, the South, West is depleted for water. Everybody, I'll be sitting to them. They're like, yeah, whatever. They're just so caught up in the day-to-day life. I'm like, man, there's nobody nervous about this.
You feel me? Like that right there. But and that's another element too that I don't think we think affects relationships, because it's like, how do you string all these different ideas together? For instance, lack of water, space dust, and marriages. What do they all got in common? How are they affecting each other?
Yeah.
So do you have any questions for us?
Okay. My question for you guys, and I guess you can answer it as men, all right, is this. Why do you think, and you can be honest, right? I don't care.
That's all you're gonna get over here.
Why do you think most content creators don't focus on the women that they want?
Mm. You said most content creators and guys.
I'll give a short answer because they're unattainable to them.
Really?
Yeah. Because most of the women that they want, they operate in a level of like, similar delusion that, some women operate under. So once they get out of that delusion and accept reality, they have to realistically think about the women that they're actually coming across and actually dealing with in their own personal lives. And they don't look like the women that they actually want, or, they wouldn't even be in the space.
Okay. So they're talking about something that they want, and it's an idea. It's not an actual reality to them.
Yeah. It's like if they can influence enough, then maybe these women that they really want will I won't say lower their standards, but they'll adjust their standards to where they can fit into that category as an acceptable man for them.
Okay, so I'll ask you a follow-up question to that. Would you say that they are wanting the women that are out of their league, ideally, which is why they are expecting for that woman, said woman, to lower her standards? Is that the situation? Like that's really happening?
I would say part of that, but I don't necessarily think that it's a woman. It may be out of their current league, but the thing is about just attraction. There's things you can do to make yourself a more attractive person. Like if you're out of shape, you can, get in the gym. It takes discipline and consistency, of course, and it's not going to happen overnight, but you can change your level of attraction to be, hit that bottom tier of like within that person's league. You can work on your social skills. You can read books, to, increase your intellectual prowess when you're having, conversations. So there's things you can do to increase that level of desirability. But I think it's like a little bit easier to just let off steam, because all those things I just mentioned take time and consistency and discipline. So it's a little easier just to let off that steam and, go the blame and shame and complain route.
A lot of these women are out of their league. That's the answer. Because I think certain things, like he said, you can work on. But I mean, there's that element, man, of physical attraction and stuff like that. Also, like it might be some high things. And so a lot of these guys that I see, like Manic was saying, it's like a lot of this does require time, and they just are not going to put that time in. So that's where it comes to like the manipulation, or like he was saying, trying to influence them. It's almost like I'm gonna shame you down into being with me. If I can't use my money, then you know what? I'm gonna shame you so much. Like you shouldn't do this. Then I think the other factor why like a lot of guys don't make content, because I think somewhere there's some confusion. It's like I want a 304, but I want her pure. So it just don't go. It's like icy hot. It's just like it don't go together. It's like, baby, you gotta make up your mind. What do you want? Like
you can have you can have a pure 304.
Nah.
A pure 304.
A pure 304.
They want her like a 304 qualities only touched by like one person and stuff like that. So it just don't make no sense.
Well, let me ask you something. What is the big deal with women not being touched by another man? And what I mean is, I've heard men say, well, when other men know you or touch you, whatever the case may be, they see it as a defilement, right? But for what men actually are interested in a woman, right, has nothing to do with her interaction with another man. Like, outside of sex, right? Now, if you care about how tight the vagina is, maybe you might be overly concerned with that. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for a woman that is, when I say virtuous, I don't mean virgin. I mean, as in she has qualities about her that inspire
morally, ethically,
morally ethical, or at least meeting your moral ethical, right? At least that, because somebody's criminal might match your criminal. Stuff like that. But you see, if you're looking for some woman like that, right, who she's touched in the past, that don't have nothing to do with what you actually are looking for. It literally, it has nothing to do with that. So I don't understand this question of, well, has she been touched by another man? And then this issue of all these other things that have nothing to do with her being with another man, as far as what really matters for why you're picking her in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's because I think like what we were talking about earlier is where it's just weird because I think people put so much preferences on stuff where it's just like if you truly want like a good person, then you got to figure out what is actually good. Like you said, what's the characters, what's the principles, the standards, whatever, and then you got to kind of gravitate. But with that, but most people are just putting so much emphasis on, especially guys, looks, and then like you said, the sexual part. So it's just like, character and all that stuff is like 4th, 5th, 6th on a list. So when people get bit, like you said, go through it, then they're looking at it like they're still confused because they're still not trying to analyze like, why did it go wrong? What was that person lacking and stuff? What did you miss out on your end? What were you lacking? Right. So it's just like they could just keep on, staying in that circle or that spiral and stuff like that. And then that's when it just comes to like the shaming tactics. Like, I'm never going to work on myself. I'm just going to shame these people into like liking me and
just doing that,
locking themselves down in this like bad relationship with my like stupid ass, pretty much.
Well, you know what? It's interesting. It's just interesting because, don't get me wrong, I'm not fighting what men are saying that they want. If they say, well, we want a woman that hasn't been, as they say, quote unquote, ran through. Okay, fine. That's what you want, right? But when you say ran through, I'm from the 80s. Okay. I think of ran through in a very literal sense, as in like gang situations, right?
Yeah. We got
like I think of trains, okay? I think of things like college situations, okay? That's what I think of, like the extremities. I don't think of listen, stop laughing like that. That's what I think of. Like I don't think of stuff like she's had 7 boyfriends she's ran through in her life. Like I don't like, I'm like, she's had what? And people say, well, she's had sex with, let's say, 15 men, but she dated 14 of them and she's 39. Like,
yeah, it's they're not being realistic to a certain point. Because it's just like, man, that one of the arguments that I hate the most is when people refer to like, I'll say Middle East and stuff, and they're like, well, we want the women over there, but they don't understand like the men hold themselves to a standard too.
Yeah.
That's what they miss. I lived over there for 5 years. So men operate with like, standards, principles. They hold it, they have the responsibility too. And that's how those like cultures operate. That's why they're like very efficient and it operates like that. But see, like guys over here, they want to just like take the women portion. Like we want the women, but we ain't gonna do none of that stuff that they do over there. We gonna know all that stuff, but we want those results. And it's just borderline dumb. So you can't sit here and be in the market for like 40 thinking like somebody ain't had no experience and stuff. It's stupid. So it's just like you said, the way of thinking, how it's almost comical where they just thinking like women was she just sitting in the house like waiting for you to come along and not talking to anybody. So yeah, it's just like if you want that, then you missed your boat. You should have been locked in young.
You missed your time.
Yeah, this is like that. That's a wrap. But like you said, just focus on the qualities.
You should have been 17 with your degree already finished. Your car, your home,
2 jobs.
Yeah, 2 jobs. You should have been a high value man at 19. By 20, you should have had investment properties, and you could have attracted your 18-year-old who's never been touched.
Listen, this is what I'm saying. Like, when people say these things, and maybe I'm being a little too literal in my own thinking because I'm trying to.
No, that's good questions because you hear it on a daily basis. I just heard it this morning. Like somebody was saying it, and I'm like, I can't take it.
I do hear it so often that I think about it, and I'm like, what do you mean? But I'll say, like, when they talk about, like you said, the Middle East, right? I've been to the Middle East, and one thing I realized about the Middle East is that there's 2 extremes over there, and there's really no middle ground when it comes to that. Either you're going to get an extremely traditional family that you're marrying into, which typically don't want to marry into Black families, and they're very strict about that, or you're going to get the whores. There's really no in between. And they all look the same, by the way. They all got hijabs on. They all look the same. When I was in Cairo and I was on my way to Saqqara, I was in the car, you know, and I don't never travel internationally without a man with me, period. So I was there and we, you know, in our taxi and stuff like that. And girl walks up to the car when we in traffic, and she's trying to sell napkins with her baby or whatever. And so we were like, you know, we don't need napkins. The fuck, you know, we're Americans. We don't need napkins. You know, we were on the highway anyway, and it's like 1,000 degrees. And like, what I need a napkin for? And then she was like, well, you know, I can do other things. And in my mind, I'm like, do you not see me sitting here? But then it was like she was really like animated, like, listen, I'll do whatever you want me to do too. Like, and it was more like a thing like you're willing to get in the car and do whatever he wants you to do with your baby on your hip, ma'am. Yeah. And then I left that to go into the city where women don't, the culture is never to even look a man in his face because it's disrespectful. It is. Like, even out here in America, in the Islamic tradition, when you go to the masjid as a women, you notice they don't look men directly in the face. It's just disrespectful to do that, especially if you're not married to him. So this is the extremes that I was dealing with. And when I hear people say, you know, these women are coming with, you know, family instilled culture, it's like, yeah, but those families, they marry. They don't, it's not like you're marrying that woman. No, your family marries that family and they come together and talk about what's going on in the family. Your father-in-law will know if you're not having sex with his daughter correctly. He will know. And you guys will come to the living room and sit on the floor and them little shits, and y'all will talk about this because they don't, that whole divorce thing, they don't like that. So they will always talk about that. I've seen situations happen like that. And I'm like, listen, this is not my culture and I'm glad. But that's their culture. But when you say, like you said, sophisticated, they want the woman, but not really the culture she come from.
Yeah.
Just want a little bit of what she represent, but they don't really want what causes that to be. Like when people say, you know, Spanish women, that, you know, they're very, you know, cooking and talking and they know how to deal with their man. And then when you go to El Salvador, you be like, you niggas are savages. What the fuck? How did y'all get anything out here? Like, they some real savages out there. And I'm saying, like, I can't do this. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, how did they get submissive women when nobody's safe in their house and coup can happen any day and whole towns will go up in smoke? And it's just like I'm like, yo, this is war every day. Like, how did you get submissive women? I'm not staying here. I'll kill myself first. Delete myself. But this is what's coming out of those countries. So what you would say is, logically, why would a woman not acquiesce to a man when she's always in a state of fear for her survival?
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Why not? If all you want me to do is give you the best fellatio you ever had so that I won't have a gun to my head and my children won't get kidnapped, trust me, you ain't gonna have no what they call it nut milk now.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna have no nut milk because I want my kids to be safe. You see what I'm saying? So you're gonna be like, listen, this is too much. Like, I mean, I like it, but dang, it's getting boring now with you, though. That's how it is when you fighting for survival. Yeah, you're gonna cook everything in the house if you fighting for your survival. If all he wanted some food, but that's the thing. Out here, we're not fighting, scratching for survival. Like, not like that. Like, Americans don't know what survival really is out here. Let a bomb go off in any city in American territory. Everybody losing their jobs if they don't know who done it in 24 hours and get it back up running in the next 24 hours. Okay, like September 11th ain't happening no more. You done seen we done changed the whole world because of one event. No. That ain't happening over here. We don't know what open warfare looks like on our own territory. So now let me add that. That's why I said going into the question of the future, right? Let's suppose American soil becomes the place where people want to fight over territory. I'm talking about major players in the world. They don't want to fight over in Ukraine. They don't want to fight over in Gaza. They don't want to fight over in Vietnam. They want to fight over California in the middle of where I get my milk from. Like, that's where they want to fight. Other countries and stuff like that, like, want to fight over there and then fly over my state. Like, no, that's going to directly impact how we deal with each other and why we deal with each other. Something as simple as that. So that's why I said, when you talk about the things that affect marriage, it's little stuff like that, biological warfare, that will definitely affect how we choose mates, when we choose mates, and how long we stay together. Right now, when things are easy going, we can take our time with choosing. We can even say, you know what? I don't want to choose this lifetime and be okay. Yeah. But that's because we have luxuries here that other places don't. Like in Gaza right now, it's not to your advantage to be by yourself. Like, not at all.
Yeah, I think you hit on it. I think we're so civilized in, you know, America, where we don't have them issues where it's like the truest form of, like, I say want.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody's at, you know, and that's where a lot of guys they're not able to grasp, where women can now they can base their relationships off of wants. They want to be with a guy they actually like. So when they don't meet up to them levels, and Manic was kind of breaking it down, now they're kind of flipping out. That's why they can't even use the money tactic no more, you know, because y'all out here getting bread. So it's just like, man, I ain't impressed by that. So they're just like, shit, like, damn, okay, well, shame. And then at this point, I ain't got no charm, no charisma. I don't know how to communicate with them because I was playing video games and shit.
Yeah.
You know, so they lost now. So that's the whole issue. But so I mean, they got the two paths. Oh, go ahead.
Isn't that the same with men though? Now that society is structured in a way where though men don't have to settle for whatever's left over in their communities, meaning the uglier women that the good nice guys didn't pick in their community, they have to settle for Bertha. And don't really like her like that, but she the only one left, and she the only one that can cook and raise kids and know how to grow in the backyard. So they had to marry her while fantasizing about Rose over there and stuff that they didn't get. Like, don't you think? Because nowadays men have access to everybody now, so it's like you can get a pretty woman from another community now because you have access to more women, and you can swipe now. And all this other stuff. Isn't that the same?
Yeah, no, I think it's the same like mindset, but I think where it like hits guys a little bit more is where we're, I say, a little more willing to compromise a little bit with that or settle. But women, for some reason, they're like, man, I'd rather die than settle with these dudes, and that's what's throwing off that balance, I think. Because as women, like, I'll be alone before I go down too far.
Yeah,
you can't even be mad at it though. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, yeah, it's throwing off that balance, I think.
Yeah, I can say that. But then too, naturally, women have a natural issue with risk, and because they will incur most of all risk if anything goes wrong. So it's like they have to be more extringent than men because men just don't naturally carry the same level of risk that women do. So I mean. Yeah, like,
no, that's true.
Women are more pickier because they have, for instance, if women are to gatekeep, right, the next generation's, let's say, suitability, you have to be able to pick and choose suitable men so that your children will come out right. Now, if you ain't doing that, you ain't gate guarding, that nothing. But that's naturally what women are supposed to do. Like, for instance, the reason why you're more attracted to women that are curvier is because nature is saying this is a woman that presents as better looking, more fertile, and your daughter has a higher chance at having a mate because she'll probably look like her mother. Subconsciously, that's what you're thinking. Same thing with me and my sons. When I see a nice looking man, if I want to mate with him, I'm not really attracted to him because it can do anything for me per se, but I'm attracted to him mainly because I see the genetics that will go into my son and his ability to attract a woman based on the looks of his father. That's subconsciously in the back of my mind as a human being, because his face don't got nothing to do with how much money he can make as far as taking care of me, how he physically treat me. His face don't have nothing to do with his ability to protect me. Like, it really just don't have nothing to do with that. So why am I overly concerned with the face? Subconsciously, I'm thinking about the suitability of my son.
I got you. No, that's definitely interesting. That's that science side coming out.
Little controversy, little bit sprinkled in there.
No, I love it though. I think more people got to embrace these type of conversations and stuff. It's like, man, if you sit back and listen, I mean, there's some truths in it. It's just like, man, you can learn and have better understanding. Helps you maneuver better in this world, instead of everybody always fighting something, getting all worked up.
Listen, that's why I think a lot of times people say like, one person, a couple people, y'all might know who he is, say, Lola, she say she ain't a good woman. And I admit, I did say that I'm not a good woman, but it's because, listen, if you meet me and you don't see a good woman, right, then I can't be that to you. It don't matter what I truly am that I think I am. If the color of me in your eyes is not the right color, it's not the right color. So me telling you, yes, I am the right color, that's not changing the color. It's like you have a lens for a reason based on who you are. And so for me to say, I'm a good woman, it's like you're going to say, well, why are you a good woman? You know how many millions of processes that go on in you as a person for you to just do simple things, right? And for me to say I'm a good one, is it because I don't have any trauma? Am I a good woman because I simply know how to cook? Am I a good woman because I might not rob people on sight, but I will smack you if you say the right thing to me? Like, am I a good woman because like this is what I'm saying. I could go all day and prove how I'm not a good woman. I am a good woman. So I don't say that. I say, listen, whatever I present to you is what I am to you, and I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to prove myself to be good or bad. Like, you know what I mean? If you think I'm bad because I say I don't ask these direct questions about where do you see yourself in 10 years? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, fine. Maybe you're not the interviewer for me, but don't get me wrong. I'm looking for a good guy too, but I just don't see me getting to that space by doing that style of interview because I know me. Like, if you get to interviewing me, I'm gonna play tricks on you. You get to ask me, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm gonna say in a mental institution. Like, you mean that? I sure do. Why
you definitely gonna scare homie off at that point. He would be like, all right, let's wrap it. He like, check, please. Check.
I'm just saying, if I'm being authentic with you and I'm having a good time and we laughing and joking, and then you asking me about, my IRAs and stuff like that on the first day and my credit score and, like all types of stuff.
All valid questions, fellas.
Right, they are
I want them W-2s on the first date. I'm trying to see if you got some health benefits up in there.
Right. If you ask me, who's like health benefit situations at my job on the first date, I'm going to be like, I get it. You're trying to figure out if I'm worth the financial investment. Then I'm going to feel like I shouldn't tell you anything about my finances and any investment with me, because truth be told, the financial investment, right, doesn't mean anything to the investment in who I am to the finances. Not the other way around. Meaning this, you can meet a woman that has a lot of money, right? That might could help you in some stuff. Or you can meet a woman that has more ideas than you and knows how to do things you don't know how to do in what you're doing. Like if you have a business, right? But you're not the customer servicey person to be going out there doing advertisement and talking to people and making connections and networking. You just know your job and you're an entrepreneur. You might need a woman that know how to work a room. So for you to sit and ask her, what is your finances looking like right now? That's not going to help you. You need to understand, how does she fit into your life for real?
Like, we're gonna have to that's another episode. We might have to just turn this into like a whole thing, because I got like another thing.
I got
we're gonna have like interpretation and translation. You're gonna walk guys. You're gonna give us some game. You're gonna be like, hey, this is what you need to be asking. We got to bring you back for that show too. We already got like 2 shows. We racking them up based off of this content. I'm just saying. No, that'd be interesting, because now I got some questions. Like, hey, if I ask, instead of my like interview style, you're gonna teach us how to like tweak it. And I think that is important.
Well, you know what? Have you seen the series House of Cards before?
Yeah, that was one.
Okay, so you know who Frank is, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. You think Frank chose Claire because she was cute and she had money, came from a family full of money?
Nah. She was a shark.
No, she was a shark. But here's the thing. he was a gargantuan shark, and he needed another shark behind him to make sure his shark game kept being shark.
That's no, absolutely. That's a good point.
Now, mind you, you might not have married Claire, not at all, but he needed Claire. Somebody like him, he needed Claire, and asking her questions like, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" He told her, "I know where I'm taking you. I don't give a fuck where you see yourself and where you've been at. I know where I'm taking you." And he told her, "I can't give you kids." Now, no, he could give her kids, but he's like, "I don't like kids. I can't give you kids, but I can give you other things that you probably might want to trade in for some kids." He told her that up front.
Yeah, no, he was honest.
He was honest. And and here's the thing. That's what she appreciated the most about him. But their relationship worked not because he sat there and interviewed her the traditional way and did all of that. No, because truth be told, he won't even really into women.
Yeah, that's right.
Never mind that part though. But
yeah. All right, we'll go ahead. We'll close this one out, but we definitely, like I said, we're gonna have you back for a couple different ones if you want to come back through, man. I love talking to you and stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, cool.
But any parting words, and where can we find you at again? And also, I want to put your information at the bottom of the video if there's no issue with that to promote you too.
Well, you guys know I have my Instagram handle is Miss Oshun Possible.
Yeah.
People can find me on Instagram there. For some strange reason, people have been seeing me on been seeing me on YouTube, and they have been going to my personal page, under the Real Serious V. And I do understand that, but that is my personal page, meaning if I don't know you in the flesh, like I haven't spoken to you, I don't know you somehow, I don't take people on that page. But if you want to follow my other page, okay, I definitely will take you there. I do have The Love Experience, which is one of my newest YouTube channels.
I just did that.
And
I'm already following Game of Dragons, but go ahead.
Game of Dragons is about the same age as The Love Experience, but I thought I would do two separate types of concepts. But Game of Dragons is something where I post lives that I do with different people, and also videos of different subject matters that is kind of different. You have to really be into some weird stuff to really appreciate it. But but that's what that one is. And I do also have my Orisha books, which is my business. You can follow that on YouTube, social media, under my Orisha books. And that's where you can find all of my products and whatnot like that. And now let me say this. I am not a consistent content creator, okay? So I can't say, every Monday I do a show. Like here's the thing. When my shows come out, understand, God inspired me. And that was like I was full of the Holy Ghost, literally, because the way my life is set up, I have like zero time really to focus on content creation and all of that. Is like, I just got to get it done. And when I do, I'm on my phone creating videos because like on my system here, this is a lot. But when I do make content, it is content that I wholeheartedly believe in. And I recently had a strange situation with my last video. People, they wasn't upset, but people kind of felt it was kind of a weird story that I told. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, but it was like it was a conversation about unconditional love, and I didn't give people the answer because I wanted people to think about it. But then people were like, "That ain't love," and I'm like, "Okay."
No, definitely go check that out.
But yeah, that's me in a nutshell right now.
But nah, we appreciate you coming through. So we definitely want to tag up again, and we'll make sure it works around your schedule and stuff like that, because we do understand you're busy and stuff like that. So
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. But we out of here. Thanks for tuning in. Check out the channel and check out the other videos. Peace.